Welcome to my channel. My name's Lizzie. I hope you're in the Halloween mood because I'm about to do another Halloween story. If you want to skip to the story now and skip the whole part of my setup and explaining where I got the characters from and the plot line and all that, go to the description box below now, find the timestamp to when the story starts, and click it and you can go right to the story. If not, I'm going to explain the cards I used, how I got this very quickly, and we'll get right into it. I do have my good old cheat sheet. I allow myself 1 page in my notebook per story to put all of this shit together so that I can just talk to you. That's why I like to show you the cards, because I'm actually going to clear my board a little bit before I do the story, because I know you can't see it, but I got cards everywhere. Alright, let's get into it. So, this is a modern day, it came out like witches, so this is a witch story, a modern day Salem trial, if you will. A spin on the, well, you know, a spin on, let me turn this on. I'll make it dark in the story. But for right now, since we're talking about the setup and I want you to see the cards, I'm going to make it light when I tell the story to go back to being dark. But anyway, modern day Salem. I think I'm going to talk to you like I'm a native Salem and like a reporter, and I'm probably going to talk to you like we're coming up on the year anniversary of all of this previously happening. So like leading up to the next Halloween, because although I didn't keep it on my board, the details of the storyline I got All Hallows Eve, which is perfect. So the story is going to take place on a festival held in Salem every Halloween. Something to do with the ancestors, like the family lines that have been there since the beginning of Salem. And the whole plot of the story, the details were broom and divination. Ritual was in here as well. So I'm like, alright. Basically the storyline is people need to come together to do something. Like these are all the cards I ended up taking out that I just started drawing cards, and like I need it to make sense, so I just took out details that were confusing, and I still have mad cards. So I dug into it. I was really trying to find a good story, and the witch story came out, so we're going with it. This week I used the Halloween Oracle cards, Seasons of the Witch, and this deck as well. So those are the 3 decks I used. Let's get into it. So, in the traditional sense of Salem, I have a coven. These people have been here since the beginning of time. But then I have, outside the coven, other different original families from other parts of the world that I'm bringing into Salem. So there's a main coven that's made up of 2 first cousins who have 2 daughters each. So that makes up a coven. They have other people in the coven, but we're not going to focus on their minions, you know. So the main, most powerful, this is the mayor of Salem, but she's actually the most powerful witch in Salem, and her family has been the most powerful witch since the beginning. She was the one, I'm sorry, not Elena, Regina was selected by her family to be the regent, the controller of Salem, to keep Salem safe all year round. So her purpose is to, 1, keep peace between all the magics going on, bring in tourism. I'm sorry, I live in an apartment complex, they're cleaning. So her main purpose is to use this guise of Halloween and this Halloween festival to do a ritual that keeps all the living and the dead spirits in check all year round. So she, you know, uses this Halloween festival to make money for her city, but also protect everyone in it. So it's a big thing every year. Their family's been doing it since the beginning of time. The tourists that aren't witches and stuff just think it's a festival, and like the local witches and stuff, they know the truth. Like, this is actual big deal. Regina's in charge. And her whole purpose is just to keep everyone safe in the city and govern. And she's the most powerful one. And she's got all gifts, but her main gift, Regina, like I said, is the mayor and the protector. So she focused more. She's like a local politician. Regina is feared and beloved at the same time. She was definitely a mean girl growing up, so she has enemies from her past, and she's a tough bitch. Like, she's a powerhouse. She don't care. She's definitely like the Devil Wear Prada energy, like, Regina. Her even name is like bitch a little bit. So then you have her 2 daughters. Blanche is the firstborn. This is the card that inspired Blanche, the character. Her details were light, serenity, and beacon, and her detail was candle magic. So I'm like, perfect. I'm going to make Blanche someone who can control fire. She can, like, walk in a room and make all the candles lit. Like, they all have witchy gifts, but her specialty is candle magic and fire control. Blanche is very powerful. Her mother is regent. One day, Blanche will be regent when her mother steps down, or that's what's believed to happen, but it could be any one of these girls. So there's always, although they're family, there's always a power struggle within. It's like the royal family and all their drama. I'm putting it into the Salem coven. Hey, why not? It's Sal's. Fuck it. And then her second daughter, Orchid, and her... Oh, shit. Sorry. Oh, I set it up so that I could glance at it. Orchid, her detail was nature spirit. So I made Orchid the town vet. She runs the local town vet practice. Her special gifts is she can control and speak to animals, and she can also shape-shift into any animal she wants. Her father, they both have different dads because she wanted to have different daughters with different gifts. Their whole purpose on life is to be the regent. So they breed with people who are going to make them powerful babies so they can stay in power. So Blanche, her father was, a fire warlock, fire thrower, half demon, so she's got like a dark undertone to her. And Orchid's father was actually like a werewolf type person, so that's where her animal vibes come from. Blanche, her job is she owns a little candle and gift shop in town called Salem's Wick. So it's a little witchy shop, but it's mostly for tourists. Again, Regina is the mayor, and Orchid, her daughter, is the local town vet, has her own vet practice. Let's talk about her first cousin, Yelena. This is a power struggle family. There's usually only one older family member in charge, and then they're like second, and then their kids. So like all their parents and their siblings got killed off in the power struggle with the other covens. That's not going to be relevant to the story, but that's why there's only 2 of them. She's actually the healer. She owns the local town doctor practice. People come to her. It's not like people wouldn't necessarily know she's a witch, but she's a healer. That's her gift. So she disguises herself as the town doctor. But remember, she's the second most powerful witch in Salem. First cousin to Regina. They run the city of Salem together. They are close, but again, Yelena always has that undertone of, I should have been regent. I'm more powerful. I'm better than Regina. They're like frenemies. They're nice to each other's face. They're overall on the same team, but at the end of the day, there's still that cutthroat energy. So keep that in mind about those 2. And her oldest daughter is Pearl, and her details were potions and spells. I made Pearl a doctor like Yelena, but she's a pharmacist. Her gift is making medicine, so she makes potions and she makes real medicines. The witches know that she's a witch, like Yelena. They know that she's an actual healer, but other people in the town who aren't gifted just look at them as the pharmacist and the doctor. You know what I mean? So they work hand in hand. Pearl and Yelena are pretty close. And bringing to her second daughter, which every family has, a rebel outcast, in comes Iris. Her detail was seduction, so I made her a siren. She can seduce anyone. She can pull anyone in. She's got charm for days. Unlike her aunts and her cousins. She's not out here trying to be beloved. She likes the salty, nitty-gritty side of people. She owns her own bar, which she sings and dances. It's kind of like a burlesque club in Salem. It's called the Goddess Lounge. She likes sex, and she likes drinking, and she likes breaking the rules, and she's a rebel, and she's given the coven some headaches over the years as she's growing up. Now, in the storyline, Iris knows her place in the family. She is going to help, but she is always a little bit of, let's throw a wrench in my family and see what happens. Because Iris knows she doesn't have any true gifts compared to everyone else. She's bitter that her, like, ooh, she can seduce people and like people want to be her, but that, like, in her mind isn't really much of a power. So she kind of sides with the undercurrent, dark undertone of Salem, which the characters were getting into. So again, that was the main coven. I'm calling them the coven in the story. When I refer to the coven, it's Regina, Yelena, Orchid, Iris, Pearl, and Blanche, and their minions. So now let's talk about, because it's Salem, there's going to be other families here. We got Adez, and her details were Greet the Darkness and Voices. And she really came across to me. Another card, let me pull it out, that really drew for, I'm making her, Adez is the Mexican voodoo priestess or witch. So her, like, this is what really, if I can find the card in here, I was like, oh, yes. I definitely wanted to put, like, Lady de los Muertos, like the Mexican vibe pulled on me, like voodoo. I'm like, yes, we gotta have a voodoo witch. You know, it's Salem. So I'm bringing it, I want to bring in the Spanish culture. So Adez is my Spanish witch. Her gifts are she can communicate with the dead. She can make curses and hexes, or she can break them. So she has her own voodoo shop in the city. It's called Cross and Bones. I didn't write that down, which I should, because I'm going to forget that. Cross and Bones gift shop. But this people come to her, like, who are cursed and need to break the curse. They come to her for ailments. They come to her for vengeance. Like, she's not a good one. Like, you have Yelena and Regina genuinely using their gifts overall to help their city. And then you have Adez, who's powerful in her own right, but she's very bitter against the coven. She wants a house, a mansion in the city like Yelena and Regina. They both have their own houses, although they're in the coven. They're both powerhouses. They're both beloved in the community. Adez wants her place. She's jealous of Regina, Yelena, and the coven. And there's that undertone of white privilege, and I got outcasted as a witch because I am of Mexican descent, and she's sick of it. She feels like her people have been persecuted and used by Salem, which is genuinely true looking at history. You know what I mean? So I'm taking that dark undertone, and Adez is using Halloween and the ritual to kind of act like Ursula. She's trying to steal Regina and Yelena power as regents so that she can become the most powerful witch in her family, will get the cred as the now coven leaders. So you have Yelena and Regina and their 4 kids trying to protect the city and do this ritual, and then you have Adez trying to tamper with the ritual to steal their power as they're using their gifts. So Adez is like a in the story. Now, because this is Salem, and this is Salem's story, and Adez wants power, she is connecting with a spirit that rains terror on the locals all year round. It's the spirit only has power between midnight and 4 a.m. She's the local banshee. Perpetua is a demon, never was a human, never had life on earth, but Perpetua wants life on earth. So Adez communicates as a medium to the underworld, as the local banshee calls in the banshee and says, I will help you be placed in someone's womb with my gifts if you help me steal the power from the regents so that I can do that. I need the power from the regents to be able to help you get born. So the evil spirit Perpetua makes a deal with Adez in the story. Like, yes, I will help you steal their power. I want to be placed in a womb, where I'm going to have her gearing towards Iris, since she's a siren anyway. Wants to be put in one of the regent's belly so that I can live. Like evil banshee spirit. Yucky, yucky. But Perpetua is giving her the power she needs behind the spell work. And Perpetua's strength is growing, and people leading up to the Halloween ritual start dying by the banshee. She needs power to make this happen, and she does that by taking life. She's evil. So let's go into Valencia. Valencia is another dark character in the story, and her details are the underworld. Valencia, I'm going to play on the Egyptian side of things. Another culture I'm throwing in with the Salem story. We don't just have the classic, Putnam, white witch, whatever. We have the Mexican. I love the whole bringing in that voodoo de los Muertos side of it. I love that. Now we're bringing in the Egyptian side. She controls the underworld, Egyptian magic, runes, old, deep, ancient magic, and her family has been in Salem since the beginning as well. Valencia is furious. She wants Salem to suffer for everything they have done. So she somehow has this crazy idea that she's going to use the Halloween festival to take her army of the dead from the spirit world and bring it into the life of the living, and for 24 hours of Halloween allow them to wreak havoc and kill all of the regents and the witches and the people that have done all this damage to the land. Valencia is the local historian. She owns the local museum, so she knows all the nitty-gritty history of Salem, and she's pissed, and she wants them to pay, and she's gifted, and she has the power to help do some bad shit. So, again, this is Salem mixing in with the living. Like you have Adez, who reached out to the yucky banshee Perpetua. Valencia reaches out to a local spirit who controls the local cemetery in Salem, Asclat, an ancient spirit, or not ancient, an old spirit from the Civil War who died on the shores of Salem fighting, was the first woman warrior, and she was written out of history and no one knows about her, and she was this strong crusher of men, and she's vicious, and she wants time back on this earth, and she doesn't like men. She's got the whole woman's right gone wrong character, but old school. However, she is forever rooted and stuck in the local graveyard in Salem. Asclat, when she died, she, as a spirit, was killing a lot of people, so the local witches couldn't really send her back, so they kept her in the graveyard, and she has control over all spirits, old or continued to be buried in the cemetery. So she's every night has an army of dead in the cemetery, where you have Valencia, who has an army of dead in the underworld. So she goes to Ascalon and she says, hey, I have an army of dead, of ancient Egyptian soldiers, and all of you dead in the cemetery. I can give you one night to wreak havoc. Will you help me? Will you join forces? So again, we have an evil tyrant in the city of Valencia with a bad purpose for this festival, leaning on a spirit in Salem who's been there since the Civil War, stuck in the cemetery, and is offering her 24 hours with all of her buddies to come out and just kill whoever the fuck they want. So of course, this isn't going to be a good thing either. You got Perpetua and Adez. Now you have Valencia and Asclat as a team. What's going to happen? I don't know. Let's lead into, we are not done yet. Now, we have Futura, and her details were intuition, so I'm making her, obviously at Salem, she's a local fortune teller, has her own little card shop, palmistry, glass ball, the old classic. She is taking on the gypsy role. She, we have witches, we have voodoo, we have ancient Egypt, and now we have the gypsies make an appearance, and of course their family line has been here since the beginning. Futura is not a bad person. She's a little bit of a attention whore, wants to be famous. Futura is the local celebrity. She has, a little YouTube channel, and she gets all this attention from locals. Like, oh, we got to go to Salem and see Futura and get our palm read. Like, she's the star of Salem. She makes a show of what she does. And she looks the traditional part of a gypsy. So Futura is using the festival on her show and channel to try to kick up fame. She wants to be in the big leagues like Regina and Yelena. Like, she has a little bit of a psychic gift as well as gypsies. She's more about insight and future stuff. Gypsies, in my mind, in this storyline are like, they're more just like the palmistry, like carnival, like witches, have power, but not like overwhelming power. But she wants overwhelming status, so she's putting pressure on Regina and the coven, like, let me in, like, I have a spot, like, look how much money I bring into the, community. So Futura is a tyrant to the coven, but not for like deadly malicious reasons. She's honestly just a greedy bitch that they see as a peon because they have gifts. Not that she's a peon and doesn't matter, and they're snobby bitches. And she's like the one that grew up poor, and she wants to make the money, and she's a little bit of a scam artist, I'm not gonna lie. Trying to trick her way, blackmail Yelena and Regina, just being a tyrant in that way, not necessarily a black magic way, but I wanted to bring the gypsies in. I like gypsy lore. Anyway, let's bring into the last living character. We have Brise. I don't know how you say it, but I'm saying it Breeze in this storyline. Breeze is a white witch. She's going to have a regular traditional, it is Salem, so she has a witch shop called the Green Witch. Yeah, the Green Witch. So she is a traditional, family's been there a long time. I'm a witch, I make my own products. She's not like, come and get your fortune told. It's like, come and get some sage, some crystals, tarot deck, like anything occult. But Breeze is very sweet. She's a good person. She is attached to the storyline in a good sense. Breeze is a lot like the coven. She had an opportunity to be in the coven. She knows the coven. She helps out the coven when they need, but she's like me. She likes to be independent. She doesn't really buy into the whole coven thing, but she is a powerhouse in her own right. She's another cousin to Regina and Yelena, but distant. And I'm associating her more with like Viking-like magic. But yeah, she makes her own products with crystal and herb. She can heal. She can see the future. She's got a lot of gifts. But there is a story in local lore in this story in Salem of a spirit called Estefania. Her name is so pretty and I can't say it. Estefaniana is a local girl way back who, it has nothing to do with witches, but she was killed by her husband, who is a warlock, and tormented her. So for one night, which is Halloween, she has to come back to Earth and be murdered all over again for his pleasure and her torment. So, of course, this is a legend that's been passed down to the tourists, and people don't think it's real, but the local witches know. Every Halloween, they hear her scream, and they have to feel her. So Breeze is like, this is going to be the Halloween saying, I want to free Estefaniana from this curse. She's trying to use her gifts for good, and she went to the coven, and the coven's on board as well. So along with doing this ritual, they're trying to free poor Estefaniana, who is an actual ghost, who only gets one night, so she's not much of the story, but she's a much of the lore. People feel bad for her. She was a young bride. He married her just to murder her, pretty much, like a tragic, like the story. I'm not going to really get into it too much, but that's, she's actually dealing with a spirit that deserves to be freed, so I wanted to throw a little bit of good in the ghost world, even though we have bad ghosts working with. So yeah, this is going to be an intense one. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, and I make these up as I go, so please let me know if you like these by, hitting the like button. Let me know which ones are your favorites, or if you like these in general and you want me to keep doing them, I will. So I'm going to take a break and we'll get right into it. I hope you like the setup part. Again, it's going to be darker, more like, I need a flashlight and be like, let me tell you a scary story. I need those vibes to get into it. But yeah, here's my cheat sheet. I only do one page. There's nothing on the back. I only allow myself one to make all these details easy for me. Alright, see you soon. Hello everybody. We are gearing up 2020. Oh my god, what year is this? 2022's Halloween festival here in Salem. I don't know about you, but I'm super fucking excited about this after what happened last year. I can't even begin to predict what might happen in the secret life and the secret underground world of Salem. Here we talk on the underweb, away from the tourists and all the people that come through Salem just for an experience. But all of you who are locals like me, who know the truth, I'm going to spill the full tea about last year. I've been waiting for my moment to speak on it, but let's be honest, we all needed a year to process the mess that unfolded at the 2021 Halloween Festival in Salem. Now, we all know why we have this festival. Most of us know why anyway. If you don't know why, you're going to learn now. Welcome to Salem. You must be a newbie. All right, so every year we have one of the biggest nights for making money in Salem. Actually, the week leading up to Halloween is a pretty big money maker for us here in Salem. We have ghost tours, all the good haunted locations that people really want to dive into during the Halloween season. It's a natural Halloween attractant. So of course we had to add a Halloween festival, music, food, and fun. Not only does the local lore and history bring in all the crazy people who love Halloween and want a night of thrills, it also brings the locals and people from the local area. This is a big making money event for all of us. But that's not the true story of this festival. We all know that the regent of our city, the main coven, Regina, the mayor of Salem, has a very important job to partake on this night. And her success kind of links to all of our success, because as we can all tell, when Regina fails at something, even slightly, we are all very much affected. Regina is our protector, appointed by the founding magic families of this city. So, while everyone's eating food and having fun and enjoying the trick-or-treating and diving into the festivities as our city's making money, Regina and her cousin Yelena and their 4 kids are doing this ritual in their home with other covens and other witches who come forward with good intentions to wrap us in a secure blanket of protective light so that we can continue on with our business. We can continue on with our tourism without having national disasters like we used to, massive wide murders, and you can tell from the city's history when we had a dip in tourism when, the Regent family weren't doing their jobs pretty much. So far, Regina and her reign has been pretty effective. As of last year, that was the first uh-oh moment she ever had in her life. I highly doubt anyone will ever get through to Regina again, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, new puppy. 1 second. Sorry. The new puppy sees the other grown puppies, and although it sounds like it's dying, it really just wants to play like, I see a friend. It's cute. Anyway, took me out of it for a second. Alright, so let me back up. So, leading into the festival last year, everything seemingly went well. We actually had more vendors, more tourists, more events, attractions, whatever you want to say, than we've ever had. The city was on point. Regina nailed it. As far as spiritually, not so much. But when it came to the cosmetics and making money for the city, all that was we had the most profitable year. Despite the bad press, it doesn't matter. The bank's good. So despite what everybody wants to say about the Coven and their failure last year, their failure still made us more money than we ever made for Salem in previous history. So maybe a little bit of controversy isn't that bad. Maybe people like a little drama. They like to spice it up. Maybe the festivals were just getting a little boring for everyone's taste. This is Salem. We have to spice it up. Am I right? Right. Alright, so let's talk about Regina this year compared to Regina last year. Now, as you could tell, leading up to the festival, now that everything has been made public, we realized things were a misarray, whatever you want to call it, leading up to the big day. Before it, shit was going down. And of course, in order to find out what was going down, we need to talk about the key players from last year. Hopefully, they will not be making an appearance this year. So, of course, you all have the good old Futura. Futura has been going on, and boy, has she ate up the press this year. And of course, she ultimately got what and her end game got fulfilled. At least somebody's did after last year's nightmare. But Futura is going to be making an appearance, and she is a little bit of the culprit as far as if you believe any of the local conspiracy theories that have come up to play this year as information slowly started to leak in the underground. So, we have Regina, our regent, our town mayor, our most high witch who keeps us all safe, versus Futura, who brings in tourists, makes them happy, To me, she's like the pickpocket of magic. She cheats her way into your pocket and takes what you have. She will charm your pants right off. Futura's good. I grew up here too. She told my fortune a few times, and yeah, it came true. I can't say her gift is fake. Futura has the gift of sight. Yes, and her gypsy blood is rooted back to the very first of us as well. So Futura, in my opinion, had a place at last year's festival, and despite all the antics and crazy shenanigans she got herself into, it would be good. It would be a good look for the city for her to return, that we are forgiving, that we have cleaned up our act, that even Futura feels safe enough to return after last year. Futura's going on and on again about her bad feelings this year and how she feels things are going to hit ahead in the power struggle of the Coven. After last year, the Coven isn't so honky-dory kumbaya, and Futura has done a very good job of spreading all that gossip around Salem this year. I foresee family drama, and then family drama happens. Perhaps not only does she have the gift of foresight, but the gift of manifestation as well. Futura, you must keep your eye on that one, and she will come back into our story very soon. However, I know she's relevant to you. I see her on the TV every night. Her story is changing, by the way. Another classic case of let me sell this story to death. Fatura has rode that wave all year. And God bless us. Let us hope that nothing happens this year so that she can shut up this next coming year. We won't have to hear her mouth all year. Poor Regina, I have sympathy on that aspect. She has not relented on Miss Regina, demanding profit of our city's tourism because she is an attractant and pulls people in. Yeah, she's an attractant, but she isn't that much of an attractant. People don't come from Paris to get their fortune read by Fatura. Am I right? Calm down, Fatura. Sit down. Sit down and calm down. Use your vision to see how you're annoying us. And then act appropriately. I feel like the whole collective of Salem just said, hallelujah. Let's talk about poor Breeze. The Green Witch has reopened just in time for the festival. The festival is a week out. She had her grand opening last week. All seems peaceful. The fire damage and basically her shop imploded, and we'll get into that part of it. But it has gone back like it never happened. Breeze is back in business. Of course, she's the most beloved shop in Salem. Her shop has been there since the beginning of time. Her family has been here since the beginning of time. She's related to the Coven. She's a powerhouse. Breeze is the good soul, the Galinda, the good witch of Salem. Even after last year, nobody has anything to say about Breeze. She's had the most support in rebuilding from a lot of the damage that was caused through the festival and the riots. Of all places, the Green Witch was definitely on the list to make sure it is returned in time for the festival, and it will be, so we can all breathe a sigh of release. Please go in and pop in, say hello to Breeze, and wish her luck, spend a little money, help her make what she lost all year by not having a shop open. Breeze, however, we all know the story of Estefaniana. I can't say it like... I love how the Spanish community says it, but I can't say it like you, and I apologize. Please forgive me. But this festival will mark whether we were successful in helping free her. I think everybody was on board. This was a part of the festival that we did know ahead of time, that we all in the underground community were trying to help to free. And this year, although I feel we did a pretty good job, I felt her soul release, and most people are on the same level, but this Halloween will mark the year to see if our spell worked. Is Estefaniana doomed to come back to Earth and be re-murdered by her psychotic husband all over again in front of us, like I have seen all of my years? We have all felt sorry for her, to be ripped from heaven for one night by a psychotic murderer, to be murdered again and feel it all over again, to be given the gift of life for one night just for it to be ripped from you. You know, we rallied. We wanted her to be free on Halloween. It was a dark stain on our history. It was a heart sore having to hear it every Halloween, see her across town. Nobody likes it. I hope, God rest her soul, that Estefaniana is not seen at all through this festival, and she's truly at peace, and the curse is broken. Again, we will get into that story. I just want to give you some updates on what's coming back this year. Good old Esclat in the graveyard has been eerily quiet all year. You remember the infamous stories of, once it gets dark, don't go in the graveyard. Only crazy tourists ever went in the graveyard, or ghost hunters, and you know from previous records, they don't last but 20 minutes before they're hightailing it out there. Esclat is an evil son of a bitch, and she will try to kill you and add you to her collection. Those grounds have been avoided at dark time since the beginning. As far as back as my family can remember, she was a part of the Civil War. She's been haunting the cemetery here in Salem every night since. But all year, people have been testing this theory. creeping into the cemetery. Asclat, I'm here. You gonna try to take my soul? Not a word, not a peep, not a ghoulie, ooh, or creepy owl, nothing. It's been peaceful all year. However, with the approaching festival, could Asclat find a way to be ripped from the other side and get her place back on the cemetery? Is her punishment forever? Is she banished forever? Were they successful? Was Regina and Yelena and her girls successful in spanking Asclat back to hell for good? Or is for the one night of Halloween, like she did last year, is she going to get her freedom to wreak havoc on us, the underground of Salem? Asclat scares me, I'm not going to lie. Her and her goons being able to leave the cemetery last year and come back to life for one night of the festival, that was some scary shit. A lot of people died during these riots. You know, of course, the local tourists had no idea and thought it was part of the act. And, of course, we lost some local tourists that caused us negative attention. And our tourism this year has dipped because of it. But for the most part, Asclat, whatever you want to say her name is. Again, I'm not good with names. If we can all tell by now. You know, she got most of us locals. And we're pissed about it. So if she comes back, I'm going to be ready for this bitch. I lost a few good friends from her and her vengeance that, by the way, I thought she only went after men. I thought Asclat's whole thing was she was this big battle warrior in the Civil War. She was a woman who commanded a ship, and she won more for the English throne than any other men did. But at the end, she betrayed the king and queen for America, and she was a part of the, turn of events. And they didn't like that, so they erased her from history. So her whole thing was, if a man walked through the cemetery, she would take their soul. If a woman walked through the cemetery, she would take their womb, their ability to produce life as punishment for walking on her turf. Like, it's a whole thing. We all heard the legends. But Asclat gets her freedom, and she wreaks havoc on everybody. Men, women, children. It's like she forgot what she was even fighting for. You know, we are Americans. We are the independent country she fought for and ultimately, got cursed to the cemetery for. What's her deal? Asclat was talked a lot about on the underground. There was a lot of footage of her. A lot of people make her this vigilante, this hero, this big, powerful woman for women's movement. She was a murderous bitch. She killed a lot of fucking people. She got one night on Earth. And instead of, doing something good to be like, hey, I'm a good soul. Maybe you were a little bit harsh about this whole curse me to the cemetery thing, being this dark stain of Salem. I'm a good person. I want to be known for something good. I was a woman commander. Reinstate my shit. I feel like if she came out in a positive way and she, instead of ripped apart people's lives in Salem and make chaos and fires and burn things and break stuff, and maybe if she just charged through the streets I am a woman, hear me roar, I got cancel cultured for having a vagina, I feel like she would have got more national attention and support, and the coven probably would have helped her free her curse like they helped Estefaniana, or however you say her name. She played the wrong card and she got spanked. Let's see how hard she got spanked. Because everybody's scared with the Hallow's Eve festival and the veil being thin. These people get one night to be able to cross through. Is Estefaniana going to have to cross through and get murdered? Is Asclat going to come back with all her cemetery friends and create riots and burn our city and kill our people under the guise of government or political unrest? Of course, they fed the whole politicians, city people are angry about the economy bullshit. They spin that in the news for the tourists, but we all know the truth. Is Askeladd coming back? We don't even know exactly how Askeladd was brought back, but I'm pretty sure we can all guess who had their thumb in that one. Valencia. We all thought that lady was a nutty bitch. Dark, always in Eeyore, woe is me, victim mode, let me cry. But, she ran the museum, and she, as much as a crazy bitch she was, she knew more history than, still to this day, she's sitting in, the local Salem jail. We gotta keep her in power check here, because she's a bad bitch. Let's not forget. Valencia is a force to be reckoned with. She got the army of the dead and all of Egypt and their culture on her side. She can spank this coven pretty hard, which she demonstrated last year at the festival. I've never seen a more bigger power struggle, power fight. And they were all women, by the way. You got Regina and Yelena, her first cousin, the two most powerful women in Salem. You got Valencia, another badass, powerful woman. You got Askeladd, a ghost, a civil warship powerhouse lady. And then you have Estefania, who's like our heartstring, like, no, don't be murdered. Like, the innocent, that's all women. And Breeze, poor Breeze. Estefania has been attached to her family since the beginning. She feels responsible for this girl and for helping Estefania and having a good positive spin. Askeladd burnt her fucking store to the ground with Valencia and her army of the dead, because let's not forget, not only did the whole cemetery and all the souls leak out into the streets of one night of hell on earth for us here in Salem, but Valencia released her Egyptian mummy dead people. So we had crazy fucking mummies walking around the street, also killing people, speaking languages none of us ever fucking heard. How fucking scary was that, by the way? And by the way, how hard was that to spin for the fucking tourists and the rest of the unbold people? How do we explain fucking ancient Egypt mixing in with our Halloween festival that didn't even go with our theme? Like, we had to reach to cover that one up. Even the government start looking at us a little lefty-loosey eye, whatever you want to call it. We had to do some dancing because of Valencia. So, yes, I'm one of the ones that are not Team Valencia. She should pay for all the families that lost the family members. She should pay, for their kids to go to school, for their funeral, for all their bills for life. Like, all the people that died is because of her. She let Askeladd out of the box, and all the cemetery people, even though they were good souls, Askeladd turned them bad before they released her, and then she released Egypt on her ass in Salem. Like, Valencia is a bitch. She's cancel cultured. If she makes an appearance at this festival again, that's it. I'm going to kill her myself. Valencia, I hope she never sees the light of day. Her trial is going. I think everybody's scared of her power. Regina knows that she's got to keep this lady in check. If that dead can come back into this life at any time and wreak havoc on the world, Regina can't have that. Her job is to protect us all. So Valencia, I feel like, will never be heard from again. But I have no doubt, I totally believe in the conspiracy theory that she let Askeladd out of the cemetery. She used her magic with the underworld. I don't know how she did it. She's a powerhouse. I'm not as powerful as Regina and Yelena and Valencia and Breeze. I'm just the lower power. I'm just the journalist of witches, if you will. So I don't get much of a say around here either. I'm just telling you the scoop. What happened with all my research. So, story worked out for Breeze, and hopefully Estefania. But oh man, did Breeze kick the shit out of her murderer. That was like the best part of the whole festival. I got front row seats to Breeze whooping his ass, and she murdered him. Brought him back, murdered him again, brought him back until the witching hour when she couldn't bring him back anymore without risking the curse being, broken. So, Estefania got to watch for several hours of him being tortured, and I feel like even if the curse was broke, temporarily and she has to relive it this year, like, it's still worth it that she got to see that. At least she got to see it. I'm hoping that the curse is broken forever, that she gets to stay in heaven and that sick fucker is in hell. I feel like Breeze is a powerhouse. Like, I think she did the job, and with the support of Regina and Yelena and Iris and Pearl and Blanche and Orchid, like, they all rallied together, and all of us underdogs rallied together. We saw her rise up into the sky and say thank you. What do you think? Do you think that she will make an appearance this year, even as just through the vow, to be like, hey, I'm coming back by choice? That would be pretty cool if she got one night to not be murdered, but actually just come back, like die in her sleep or whatever at midnight. God rest her soul. That was the one good part of the festival, apart from Regina actually pulling it off and saving the day. But Valencia, her trial ticked on in the underworld. Valencia's lucky that we still don't have executions, because I feel like she would have been executed. Like, voted off the island for sure. Futura, I'm on the fence about. I'm rooting for her because, I feel like the gypsies of our community have always been forced to be poor and, like, kept down, held down, oppressed. I'm definitely a voice of support in that they deserve a place in our city too. Their magic is relevant too. So I'm hoping that Futura definitely gets her mansion and her place in the city, so that the gypsies and her lineage have a place in the city forever, even though I think she's a little bit of a fake bitch. Needy bitch, tension whore. Like, I'm gonna tell you the truth on my channel, okay? That's how I roll. Alright, let's talk about Adez. Another thorn in our asses. Another one, she's always been a little... People fear her. I have a healthy respect for her. Even though I'm like, is she listening? Is she going to put a hex on me? I don't know. She could be good. She could be bad. And she's another one who's a powerhouse. Definitely has more gifts than most of us. And, her culture, as far as voodoo, has a place in our city. And I want them to be supported. Our voodoo community has a large voice here. I feel like they Futura deserve and her gypsy lineage, and they deserve the mansion, and Adez and her Spanish and voodoo lineage deserves the mansion. Like, everyone should have a head coven, you know what I mean? That's what I'm voting for in the city, and what we're all leaning towards. I do support Adez in that. I think she went about it in the wrong way. Because we all know the conspiracies about her as well, being in the dark arts, creating curses and spells, and all the things that happened. And Perpetua. Oh, Perpetua. You all know the stories of Perpetua if you grew up here. The local banshee, the old hag that comes into your room at night and tries to hold you down in bed and steal your soul, or comes to a man attractive, trying to get them to impregnate this demon being goddess thing, whatever she is. Or she comes to a woman as a male trying to Perpetua has had some crazy history. There's I've heard millions of things about Perpetua. She always she's not limited to Halloween here. Being locals, from 12 to 4 a.m. every single night, the bewitching hours, you have the potential to run into the local banshee, which is Perpetua. However, also has not been seen or reported about for the first time in history all year. So perhaps Regina and her coven and all of us and Breeze, as they caught on to Perpetua, and, poor fucking Iris. Could you imagine being, impregnated by a demon, trying to have life on Earth again and having to rip that out of your womb? Like, first of all, not only finding out that you're pregnant by a demon, but then your belly growing in hours and then having to like potentially give birth and like having to get your family together and use magic to try to kill this thing inside you before it kills you, because everybody knows the curse of Perpetua. If you deliver that baby, it's the cost of your soul. You know what I mean? So, like, oh no, Iris, who is Yelena, the second in command of all of Salem, her daughter, was attacked by Perpetua and impregnated through this festival as Iris was trying to help her family protect us and do this protective ritual and free Estefaniana and put Esclat back in her box and spank Valencia's army back to the dead as they're doing this, trying to put Perpetua away, you know. Where was Adez in all of this? She was eerily not seen through most of the night. And a lot of the voodoo community turned on Adez this year. They did not and do not support Perpetua because, of course, Perpetua took a lot of souls that night. She got her night of freedom like the rest of the dead. You know, you have the Esclat and our local Salem dead from the cemetery. You have Valencia and her army of the Egyptian dead that got released on us. Then you have Perpetua, the fucking banshee, just taking souls and impregnating people trying to be born all night. You know, Iris wasn't the only one hit. Regina and Yelena had 4 other girls that they had to, after Iris and their problem and they got the baby thing situated, you know, they had to make other house calls to make sure that crazy banshee wasn't born before the bewitching hour when they would lose all their gifts, which all signs point to Adez helping Perpetua and giving that 24 hours of mayhem like Esclat got with Valencia's help. So you have Valencia and you have Adez, the evil ones that fucked up this whole festival. Whether you believe in the conspiracies or not, their trials are still ongoing. Valencia is locked up. Adez made bail. There is evidence to prove that she helped Perpetua impregnate Iris, and we all know Regina isn't going to let this go. There's going to be a punishment for Adez, and I feel like her power is going to be stripped. Her own voodoo community is turning on her because voodoo community members died. Perpetua is an evil fucking soul. Whether Adez thought that her people would be protected in the 24-hour vow or not remains to be seen. And that's why a lot of people turned on her. Like, did you know that your own people were going to be, their souls were going to be wrapped too? Did you know that they were, like, Adez is staying eerily quiet? There's evidence about her, but there's nothing damaging. It's a lot of hearsay. And she's smart to keep her mouth shut. Like, Fortura is smart to keep her mouth shut about how much she was involved in all the undertone. Was it really just about money and power for her? Or did she play a part in all of this horrible stuff? So overall, Valencia's locked up. She's in charge of 28 deaths, or responsible for 28 deaths as far as the paperwork goes and all the research I've done. And then you have Adez, who is on trial for about 12 to 13 more poor souls, and her involvement with Perpetua. So we'll see how that all plays out. Are they gonna is the coven gonna strip Adez of her power? Is the Buddhist community, or Buddhist, well, don't you wish they were Buddhist sometimes? The voodoo community, are they going to be shunned forever because of Adez's mistake? Is there going to be a dark cloud on our voodoo community? Because, again, I support the voodoo community. We have good voodoo shops in the city. They are a part of our culture. We want to keep them here. And although Adez was trying to put voodoo on the map here, it had the reverse effect because of the amount of people that died in their own community and other communities as well. Even Fortura, her gypsy community, started turning on her with any attachment of the controversy of all the deaths that happened on that night, of all the eerie things we hid and kept out of the paper that only us locals know. It's all Venezuela, Valencia, let me get these names right, Asclat, Fatura, Adez, all these people that used us, our gifts, our festival. We can't forgive and we can't forget, because if we forget, we're going to allow other people to rise up later and use this festival. And we can't forgive because a lot of people died and it's only been a year. And we had to cover it in all the papers. Our tourism fell. We had to rebuild our city. But again, I'm getting too far into it. If you weren't around last year, let me give you the play-by-play of how our festival usually goes. It begins the night before Halloween, All Hallows Eve we call it. It commences at dark time. This is when the traditional street parties, food, bonfires, we have rituals, burning and cleansing, sages going, the vows getting thin, we're protecting you. This is the beginning level of the yearly protection. Regina and Yelena hold their infamous private party dinner with all the most powerful players in the city, and that's when they perform the protection ritual. It has to charge. The first part of it charges, throughout the day. So this is the private part, and while they're doing that, we party in the streets, fireworks, everyone's in costumes. It's more of an adult thing on All Hallows Eve. The kids are in bed, they gotta have energy for trick-or-treating the next night. The festival is for adults on All Hallows Eve. This is when the gypsy community and the voodoo community and the Egyptian communities, they get their moment to showcase their stuff, whereas Regina and the Coven, they take over on the actual day of Halloween. So at the festival during the day part, it's all for the kiddos, history of Salem. We give out sweets and knickknacks, and we do day walking ghost tours that leads into the night. And then you have the trick-or-treaters and all the local Halloween traditions and the gathering and the concerts. And then while everybody's busy during the concert, the Coven, Regina, Yelena, Pearl, Irish, Blanche, Orchid, all of us, Fatura, anyone who's gifted comes forward and meets in the field, which I won't say in case any tourists, gets a hold of this. The infamous field in Salem, we all gather and we complete the last of the ritual to protect us from evil and angry spirits, not just us, but the tourists, and help promote. And then, after that's done, Regina comes out and thanks everybody as the town mayor, tells us how much money has come in so far, and, what's to come in the holiday seasons ahead, and just, the schmoozing. But last year didn't go to that plan. That's not what usually happened didn't happen. So let me back up to All Hallows Eve. Leading up to the festival, it's daytime, about 4 hours out from getting dark. People are getting home from work. Kids are getting out of school. They're getting excited. They're in their homes putting their costumes and their makeups. And, anybody in the city, all they got to do is walk out their door, and the festival's all around them. People drive as well, and they come in around this time and they start setting up their lawn chairs and their little fire pits and the respected areas they're given to camp out over the 2 nights. So we do bring in campers and people with RVs that want to stay both nights, that travel. This is the time where they're starting to come in. Local shops are still open. They're preparing for the night hours. Like, it's a buzz. Everything's going on. So during this buzz is when, People start screaming in the streets as they're recognizing people that they just buried from the cemetery or are now starting to return home, but they're not coming home for happy business visits. They're attacking their family members. So you have people screaming and bleeding out into the streets. And the tourists think this is like just part of the act. The other locals are like, what the fuck is happening? And they're running to Regina, which is the head of the coven, and they're scrambling to figure out what happened. And then the first sightings of Esclat and her civil war, and she comes in on the ship and she makes her whole like, I'm out of the cemetery and I'm alive and I got weapons and I got this army. And all of us locals are like, oh fuck. Because if you know the lore and you know the history, Esclat is not allowed, one, in the day hours, and two, she's been cursed to the cemetery. Like, if you enter the cemetery after dark, it's on you. But, like, she can't leave or isn't supposed to leave, so that threw a whole wrench in it. And, of course, the local tourists are loving this. They think it's all part of the show. You got press honing in. It's being showcased all over the world. Oh yeah, we had to brainwash for weeks and weeks after this because you have civil, Esclat brought her whole dead ship, like all her ship people, all her pioneer friends that founded this city. So everybody in colonial costumes looking all dead and shit like Pirates of the Caribbean, like, hey matey, I'm a fucking deadly ass sailor, I'm gonna kill you. And the local tourists are like, oh my god, this is so awesome, this is so realistic, oh my god. And all of us like, what the fuck, running to Regina's property, the mayor, where they're having the first part of the protection ritual, like, hey, Esclat and all these dead people from the cemetery are spilling out. And while this is happening, people are being murdered by these crazy colonial spirits and other people from the cemetery. And then all of a sudden, that's when the mummies come. So about an hour into colonial dead people in the cemetery, dead people, now we have mummies. Like weird, strange wrapped men, like all dusty and shit, walking through the streets. They also have weapons. They're not alive though, they stay dead, like they got parts falling. Like those ones are pretty easy, you could just like push them and they'd fall over. Like all the bones, like, are pretty much fucking skeletons. Just kick their legs out and you'll be fine. Like, thank God for the stupid one. Like, if this was a zombie story, they were like The Walking Dead, like, let me take 10 hours to get to you, to eat you. And, like, you literally have to stand there and be like, alright, I guess I'll die. Waiting for it to slowly make its way across the fields, Those ones, although they look scary, they were easy to take out. Valencia, she might have an army of the dead, but they're not that bright, and they're defective soldiers. Thank God for that, though. However, Esclat and her fucking people were real flesh and blood, so although they were fighting, some of them didn't want to fight, and then so it was a mix of, like, you have colonials, like, walking around like, fucking kill you, and then you have colonials, like, looking at lights, like, they never seen street lights and shit, so they're like, what the fuck, what dine is this? What do I do? Where's the mead? And they just walk in the bar and start drinking shots. It's very surreal and strange. Like, you'll never see any of this footage. The world and the magical realms of the underworld have worked hard to delete all of this from people's minds and the news all year, but if you were there, it was quite an experience. You didn't know if you wanted to run or hide, laugh, party with the colonials because, they're colonials. It's like a walking history lesson, if you could understand what the fuck they're saying. Some of them weren't even speaking English, I don't know. And then the mummies, of course, they were all in Egyptian. Nobody knew what the fuck they were saying. Just knocked their head off. Like, they were more annoying than scary. But I would rather have more annoying than scary. Because the colonial killer ones, coming around the corner of the streets. I'm like, are you a good one or a bad one? I don't know. Fuck. I had a trash can, I wasn't prepared for this. I, was just expecting to get drunk like all of you and eat some food. And our plans got fucked up before it even started. It's like 4 hours before the fucking festival. We are in broad daylight. We got dead mummies, dead colonials that aren't dead anymore. Half were trying to kill you. Half were like confused by this fucking world. Same with the Egyptian mummies. Like some of them were clearly blind and just walking into walls, and you just kind of felt sorry for them. Like they get one night on Earth and they can't even fucking see. Like, I put those ones out of the misery. Like, let me help you send back to... You want to go back to the underworld? There you go. If you ever have a chaos in your city, hope for Valencia's Army of the Dead over the colonials. Just saying. I know I'm making a joke out of it. I know it was very scary, but, I use my trauma for humor, okay? We all gotta move on with our lives. You might as well laugh about it. So, I don't mean to offend you, Salemers. But, I was here too. Shit went down. Anyway, what about this coven? Regina, Little Miss Perfect, nobody questioned her authority and her gifts. She's the most powerful witch I remember ever being regent. And now we're, like, questioning her, like, is she okay? Like, does she have this shit unlocked? Like, is this gonna be bad? We've got fucking killer banshees, killer colonials, killer Egyptians. The locals like, what the fuck? And the tourists like, oh my god, this is so awesome. This is the best reenactment event of all time. And then you got the government, like, sweeping it up. And we're all just sitting here like, no one's going to believe us who wasn't here on this day. And here we are. 1 week out from the festival again. After all this shit, all I can go on is what I saw with my eyes because so much covering has been done. Will Regina and Yelena be successful in, one, building as much vendors and money coming in like they did last year? Despite it all, like I said, we had so many vendors from all over. We had more people, tourists. It was like the holy grail of all the festival that we've been trying to do. So I'm hoping, despite what happened last year, we double what we made, but with no, like, dead colonials or Egyptians or any power struggles with Yelena and Regina. We felt the tension all year. Yelena, kind of calling out Regina all year, like, if I was regent, this would have never happened. I was the one that was with you fighting in the town, and Regina was hiding on the property. I kind of sided with Yelena. Although she's second in command, she was out there in the mix of it. I didn't even see Regina all night. Either night. Even after the cleanup, she does the speeches, she does all the political stuff, but Yelena's, in the trenches with us. Maybe she should be in charge, and I feel like a lot of people are feeling that way. And of course, for the first time, the coven broke apart. Yelena and her daughters, and Regina and her daughters. Now we have 2 covens. And they're like turning it into an election. So we don't know what's going to happen. Who's going to be regent after this festival. Or if the protection ritual is even going to be done. We don't know if Estefaniana, if her spell and curse is broken. Like I said, we're all waiting anxiously to see if she makes an appearance at all. Even a peaceful one. The only happy story in all of this is Breeze and the Green Witch shop and the town being prepared again for the festival and them successfully covering up so that people are returning in the first place so that we can make money. But I'm a little nervous with 1 week out. I know you are out there too. Let's all pray, sage up and gear up. I know I'm coming to this festival prepared. I'm not only bringing a cooler full of food and booze, but I am having weapons. Lots and lots of weapons in my pockets. I know a lot of us will be. I hope that you had a good time despite, the first day and things getting cleaned up for actual Halloween. They did still have the spirits here and the ghosts, but they had them contained by the second night, and we were able to have a little bit of fun. If you weren't one of the gifted that was roped by Regina and skipping the whole fucking thing to keep these ghostly things like me. I missed the fireworks on the second night. I missed the food because I had to be in charge of Esclat and her stupid army and making sure they stayed in the stupid cemetery. You gotta do what you gotta do to protect your people. We'll always step up as Salem people and our legacy. That's what we're meant to do, even if we're not regents. But it is going to be interesting this year. It's like, who's going to make prom queen? Who are you voting for? I think I'm going to vote for Yelena. I think Regina is a stuck-up bitch who's full of herself. And I think Yelena is just slightly less of a pompous ass. So I'll take slightly less, I guess. Either way, maybe it's time to give the city back to the lower, lessers. Maybe we have better hearts to rule. Maybe power goes to their head. I think that's the moral of the story. Power goes to all these crazy bitches' heads. And because of it, Salem has had a sordid history. Because of crazy bitches in the city. It's not a good look for women's suffrage. Stop living up to the stereotypes, crazy witches. Can I get an amen? Hallelujah. Anyway, I hope you liked this one. Of course, it was all fake. It was a Halloween story. I really don't think that the shit happens. I didn't see any of that. I know I shouldn't have to tell you this. You should as adults, but I have to say it as a disclaimer. This is not real. It's a Halloween story. I hope you liked it. And, it was like, I got all these cards. I'm like, what am I going to fucking do with this one? I hope it was something fun. COVID brains, I'm easing into it. Let me know if you liked it by giving me a thumbs up. Let me know if you want more Halloween stories in the future. If you think this is fun, let me know in the comments. Hit the thumbs up. If you like my vibes, please subscribe. I do regular tarot readings too. This is just something fun for the holiday that I've been trying. If you want to watch other stories, I have them listed as Spooktacluar Halloween stories or just Halloween stories. And of course, I do them all live based on the cards I draw. Again, just for fun. Love you all. See you next time. Bye. Happy Halloween.